6:45 a.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Mario Vijayawardena. The headlines. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said a book on economic scientific is launched with the sole purpose of educating the public about the current economic crisis and the solutions provided through the 2024 budget. Stringent legal action implemented for businesses exploiting consumers and unfairly profiting. State Minister Vyalendran emphasizes bipartisan support for the government's nation-building agenda. A new social security program covering the country's entire workforce to be presented to the cabinet. Sri Lanka hopes to strike a debt deal with commercial creditors within 2 months. In foreign news, Chris Christie exits 2024 White House race with a parting shot at Trump. In sports news, the third and final ODI between Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe will be played today. The Minister of Mass Media, Transport and Highways, Dr. Bandula Gunawardena, said a book on economic scientific is launched with the sole purpose of educating the public about the current economic crisis, solutions provided through the 2024 budget, the role of the IMF and accurate information relating to local and foreign debt restructuring. The book written by Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena has all the important information with sufficient evidence. The book also gives a wide range of reviews on the economy changes from 2003 to 2023. The information relating to the budgets, trade deficits and other impacts since early 2000s was clearly analysed and discussed under 9 chapters. In 2022, the country faced the worst economic downfall due to the continuous failures on achieving budgetary targets for many years. However, the country started to breathe a little due to the IMF involvement and the implementation of correct fiscal policies of the government. Incidentally, this was the 55th book written by the minister. The first copy of the book was presented to Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abeyewardena, who participated as the chief guest at this occasion. Parliamentarians, well-wishers, media heads and many intellectuals were also present at this book launch. Professor Shirantha Heenkenda and Professor Sirimala Beratna spoke at this function. The event was held at the Sri Lanka Foundation yesterday. The State Minister for Finance, Mr. Ranjit Siambalapiti, emphasizes the strict enforcement of laws to eradicate the trade mafia generating profits without registering with the Inland Revenue Department. He also outlined the government's plan to expand the tax base, anticipating a rise in the direct tax percentage to 40%. These remarks were made during his participation in a special VAT awareness conference at the Ministry of Finance recently, organized by Mr. Saman Ratnapriya, the Director General of the Presidential Trade Unions, for the benefit of civil society activists, government officials, political activists, trade union leaders and journalists. He said that these challenging times affect everyone regardless of their economic status as incomes decrease and expenses rise. The government acknowledges these difficulties and recognizes the necessity of its ongoing program to address the country's problems. Increasing government revenue is crucial for economic development, and to achieve this the government aims to expand the tax base. The direct tax percentage has already risen from 20% to 30% with plans to further increase it to 40%. The government also enforces strict laws to combat the trade mafia, preventing them from making unfair profits through fake bills without proper registration with the Inland Revenue Department. Additionally, there is potential to reduce indirect taxes in the future. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
The State Minister for Trade, S. Vyalendran, highlighted that the government's efforts led by President Ranil Wickremesinghe have contributed to a partial recovery from the economic recession in the country. To fully enhance the situation, he emphasized the importance of everyone, regardless of party affiliation, rallying behind and supporting these endeavors. The State Minister also emphasized that the well-being of society can only be sustained through politics focused on developmental rights. The State Minister for Trade, S. Vyalendran, highlighted this during a press conference held at the Presidential Media Centre yesterday, themed Collective Path to a Stable Country. The Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment, Manusha Nanayakara, said that a new social security program covering the entire workforce of the country will be presented to the Cabinet of Ministers within the next 3 months, and a common social security system will be prepared by combining all the social security systems that have been implemented so far. The Minister said the first meeting of the committee that was established relating to the implementation of this social security program met recently, and it was decided to submit its report to the Cabinet within the next 3 months. Minister Nanayakara made these remarks during from the meeting held yesterday with the plumbers and painters under the Garu Saru program initiated by the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Employment to give respect to protection of the labour of all those employed in the informal sector in Sri Lanka. Minister Nanakar added that in the future they hope to implement a common program for all the working people in the country instead of so many separate funds called the EPF, a separate fund called the ETF, as well as so many insurance schemes, agricultural insurances and other different insurance schemes. The Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka says good faith negotiations are in progress with commercial creditors to reach an in-principle agreement as soon as possible. Addressing a special media briefing at the CBSL premises yesterday, Dr. Nandalal Birasinghe said the agreement is expected to reach within the next 2 months. Sri Lanka reached in-principle agreements with China's Export-Import Bank and the Official Creditor Committee in late 2023 on the financial terms of debt treatment. The OCC was formally formed on May 9th with 17 countries to respond to the Sri Lankan authorities' request for debt treatment. It is co-chaired by India, Japan and France. It was established following the launch of a common platform in April 2023 for talks among bilateral creditors to coordinate restructuring of Sri Lanka's debt. Agreement with the Chinese Exim Bank was reached in October 2023, covering approximately $4.2 billion of outstanding debt. It was followed by the debt deal struck with the OCC, which covers $5.9 billion of outstanding debt.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
An emergency disaster situation has been declared at the Yala National Park following the inundation of entrance points due to the spilling of minor tanks, an official said. In light of the situation, access to the Yala National Park has been restricted with the main entrance at Palatupana completely blocked by floods. Consequently, entry from the main gate has been temporarily suspended until further notice. Compounding the severity of the situation, local residents and tourists who are present at the park's bungalows are being evacuated due to the looming threat of a major flood.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
This is Watchlight.
Observing a significant increase in leprosy cases, a total of 1,550 leprosy cases were logged in 2023, with 173 cases being reported among school children. According to the anti-leprosy campaign, the majority of cases have been recorded from the Colombo district, with 315 cases, while 168 and 151 cases have been reported from the Gampaha and Kaluthura districts respectively. In light of the uptick in cases among school children, a nationwide program was initiated at the school level to detect leprosy infections. The anti-leprosy campaign further states that there are 2 types of leprosy spreading in the country, communicable and non-communicable. Unfortunately, of the cases detected, 60% are classified as communicable, indicating a potential high risk of transmission.
Coming up, World News.
In world news headlines, Chris Christie exits 2024 White House race with a parting shot at Trump. A UN helicopter and passengers seized by Somalia and Al-Shabaab. Illegal New York synagogue tunnel leads to 9 arrests. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has dropped out the presidential race with a parting shot at the front-runner Donald Trump. The Republican had faced pressure to step aside and allow the party to unify around a viable challenger to Mr. Trump. This was Mr. Christie's second unsuccessful White House campaign. Mr. Christie's departure comes days before the Iowa caucuses, the first of the state-by-state contests in which Republican voters will pick their preferred candidate for president. The eventual winner will be anointed the Republican White House nominee in July before going on to challenge the Democrat likely Joe Biden this November. Mr. Christie announced that he was suspending his campaign at a town hall event in the U.S. state of New Hampshire on Wednesday afternoon. He devoted much of his remarks to a plea to Republican voters to reject Mr. Trump. The Somali armed Islamist group Al-Shabaab has seized a United Nations helicopter along with about 8 people, both passengers and crew. The helicopter landed in territory held by the group in central Somalia. The UN's mission in Somalia confirmed an aviation incident involving a UN-contracted helicopter conducting a medical evacuation. A UN memo on the incident seen by AFP news agency says the helicopter crash landed about 43 miles southeast of Dumasarebe and no UN staff were on board. The personnel were third-party contractors, the report said. The nationalities of those on board have not been specified, nor the exact number involved. Al-Shabaab controls large parts of the southern and central Somalia area. The group is affiliated to Al-Qaeda and has waged a brutal insurgency for nearly 20 years. 9 members of a New York Hasidic Jewish committee have been arrested and charged over a secret tunnel that connected to a historic synagogue. They fought police after city officials and leaders at the Chabad Lubavitch headquarters came to close the tunnel. The men are charged with criminal mischief, reckless endangerment, and obstructing governmental administration. A spokesperson for the Chabad called them a group of extremist students. The tunnels were built under a prominent street in Brooklyn, where the Chabad Lubavitch headquarters are located. The building is one of the most significant Jewish sites in the city. City inspectors were called to the Chabad on Monday to conduct emergency structural inspection. There were looming concerns that the illegal tunnel could have caused damage to the famous property. And now the main points of the World News segment once again. Chris Christie exits 2024 White House race with a parting shot at Trump. UN helicopter and passengers seized by Somalian Al-Shabaab. Illegal New York synagogue tunnel leads to 9 arrests.
Development News.
The Princess Royal visited Sri Lanka yesterday afternoon for a 3-day visit to mark 75 years of diplomatic relations between Sri Lanka and Great Britain. Along with the Princess Royal, Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence also arrived in the country. This visit of the Princess Royal is the first overseas tour of the royal family for 2024. And Princess Royal, who was born on the 15th of August 1950, is a member of the British royal family. She is a second child and the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, and the only sister of King Charles III.
Moving on with sports news.
The third and final ODI between Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe will be played today at the R. Premadasa International Cricket Stadium commencing from 2:30 p.m. The first ODI was washed out after Sri Lanka scored 274 and Zimbabwe was able to score 208 in the second game, and Sri Lanka reached a target with 2 wickets in hand with 1 over to spare. Today Sri Lanka will fight to win the series too, while Zimbabwe is expected to level the series. With the aim to attract more spectators, today's match will be free of charge for the spectators.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The US has made the long-awaited decision to allow Bitcoin to be part of mainstream investing funds. It has approved what are known as spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, which can be purchased by anyone from pension funds to ordinary investors. The announcement from the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission was accompanied by a stern warning about risks associated with the asset. But cryptocurrency fans reacted with glee and memes about becoming rich. The US financial watchdog had repeatedly rebuffed earlier requests for approvals, citing concerns about potential for fraud and manipulation. But the US court said last year its justification was inadequate.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And now in economic news, most of the local banks are yet to pass on the full benefits of the reduced lending rates to their customers. The central bank's governor, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, said, releasing the annual policy statement 2024 at the CBSL head office yesterday. He said local banks that have not fallen in line should do so and offer a low interest rate for their borrowers. The gradual normalization of market lending interest rates and improving investor and business sentiments are expected to support the expansion of credit to the private sector, thereby allowing the economy to reach its potential.
Weather Report.
The prevailing showery conditions are expected to reduce in the northern, north-central Nuva and eastern provinces. After today, showers of thundershowers will occur at times in the eastern and Nuva provinces and in the Hambantota, Polonnaruwa, Matale and Nuwara Eliya districts. Fairly heavy showers above 50 mm are likely at some places in the Uva province and in the Polonnaruwa and Matale districts. Several spells of showers may occur in the northern province and in the Anuradhapura district. Showers of thundershowers will occur at several places in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Kandy, Gala and Matara districts after 1 p.m. That was with the report. And now the headlines of this news broadcast once again. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said a book on economic scientific eyes launched with the sole purpose of educating the public about the current economic crisis and solutions provided through the 2024 budget. Stringent legal actions implemented for businesses exploiting consumers and unfairly profiting. State Minister Viyalendran emphasizes bipartisan support for the government's nation-building agenda. A new social security program covering the country's entire workforce to be presented to the cabinet. Sri Lanka hopes to strike a debt deal with commercial creditors within 2 months. In foreign news, Chris Christie exits 2024 White House race with parting shot at Trump. In sports news, a third and final ODI between Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe will be played today. That concludes this news broadcast. You're with Radio Sri Lanka. Back to your host as always on a Thursday morning, all dressed in red to, well, bring us luck this Thursday morning, and surely Geeta always brings us luck. Over to you, Geeta.